And joining in studio right now is Mr. Bill Chaneski. He is the general manager of the oil and gas division of OriginOil. Their stock symbol's OOIL. Bill, good to see you again.
Thank you. Good to see you again.
Well, we normally are talking to Riggs. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. I know that a lot is going on in your division. You've got to probably be, the busiest guy in the joint and probably the most popular right now.
Well, we do have a lot of opportunity, and some really interesting things are happening right now. It's great. It really is. What
I find most remarkable about this, we've been following the company now for 4 or 5 years, and when we first started talking about OriginOil, we were talking about it as an alternative to oil and gas, and now we're looking at your company actually servicing that business and helping it run cleaner.
Well, the company's made a really interesting transition. As the technology developed, we found out that we had, the technology for harvesting algae evolved, and we found out that in fact it is a great technology for treating water, whether as we say, it's about the water. Are you getting out the bad things in the water, or you're getting out the good things? In one case it's algae, in another case it's contaminants. And so it's a water treatment business, really.
It really is, and unless you've been living under a rock or you're perhaps 3 days dead, everyone has heard the term fracking. When it comes to the oil and gas industry, it's a political hot button right now. It's an environmental hot button, and you're able, with your technology, to completely clean up the water that is basically contaminated as a result of fracking.
Our clean frac system it's really the first stage of a multi-stage process for cleaning up that frac flowback water. It removes the hydrocarbon, the oils from the water. It removes the suspended solids from the water, and it kills the bacteria. And that in itself is sufficient for a lot of beneficial uses for the water. But sometimes it needs subsequent operations, subsequent downstream processes. If you want to turn it into drinking water, for instance, that would be the most extreme. But it's a really effective process for removing those first 3 things that we talked about.
Well, you brought us a set of slides to take a look at.
Yeah, let's take a look at
the first one up right now. Tell us what we're looking at.
Okay, there's a tremendous amount of detail on this slide, and so you really can't see the numbers that I'm going to be talking about. But if you look at the right-hand side of the slide, there are little pictures of particles. The test that was done with this was done by a piece of equipment called Petrocam by Fluid Imaging Technologies. And those little pictures are actually pictures of the individual oil particles or the individual suspended solids, the pieces of sand and chemicals and so forth. And the Petrocam is a very high-resolution camera system that takes a picture of all of those particles, and then with their software they go through and analyze the shape of it, the size of it, and they can then basically count the number of oil particles, or they can count the number of suspended solids. And so they can take a picture before, and that's what you're seeing in slide 1. Slide 1, I don't remember the exact number, but there are about 16 million particles per milliliter according to their test, and there's a whole lot of parameters they look at. If you look at slide 2, it looks like a similar kind of slide, but in fact some of the graphs are different and the numbers are different. Again, this was a slide of the sample of the material that was after processing from our material, whereas the first slide was the water samples before processing. But in the second slide, the number of particles were down to 79,000 versus 16 million.
Wow.
So our clean frac process just did a tremendous job of removing the oil particles and the suspended solids. Their Petrocam process can actually differentiate between the oil and the suspended particles also, and so it's we were able to, their analysis showed that we got more than 99% of the oil and more than 99% of the suspended solids with our process.
We're just about out of time, but I do want to look at the third slide real quick. Tell us what we're seeing there.
What you're seeing there is a example, or is a graphic of what we call our electro-water separation. And there's two stages in that process. The first is shown on the bottom, which is an electrocoagulation stage, and the second is an electroflotation stage. The slide shows the emerging markets that we're really focusing on. which is the frack flowback water cleanup for the oil and gas, the algae, and the aquaculture. And we know because of questions that were asked that there are other markets that we could be pursuing too, like mining and so on. But we really have to focus, and so we're focusing on those first 3 markets at this point in time.
The company again is OriginOil. Their stock symbol's OOIL, and as I've said to Riggs many times in the program, every time you elaborate on the story, it gets more and more exciting. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Don. I appreciate it.